everything and sold everything with the exception of these guys. So that's the
Well,
only.
I can't tell that they're scales, but they're interesting looking.
Yeah, I thought they were too when I got them, and I was like, there's only a few things that I want to bring, and it was this, and then it was a picture that my parents had in their home that I liked since I was in high school, and so they gifted that to me like last year. It was in like their attic, and they were like, you said you always wanted it, and so they finally brought it to me. So I only wanted. I was like, I only want. There's only like two things that I wanted to take, and then these were one of them. I just always liked them.
Yeah. So have you seen any of the episodes I've done?
I have,
Oh,
I have.
cool.
Yeah,
I
I
hope they're
really
not. I
enjoyed
hope they're
them.
not horrific.
No, no, they're good. I think again, it's really just it kind of aligns on what I always think too. It's being able to show how different I know you've had different I think you had somebody from the NAHHP, right? I think was that right that you had just had not too long ago?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I've seen her before too. And that was really cool. And then you also had some other people from like I guess the university, and then you have physicians, and so I love it because it shows kind of all sides.
Yeah,
And
and there's a bunch of people that I've known professionally that have been in there. So some of those episodes lean, frankly, a lot more business professional
it
than.
all connects.
But it all connects. It really does. In fact, you know, I'm trying to build out more teams, and one of the ways to build out more teams is connect with business professionals that have a lot of contacts with physicians who want to build their own teams. So I'll let them be the face of it, but our organization will do all the work. And by the work, it's knowing what to do in the first place. You know, when we did our first mission a gazillion years ago, it took us a lot of time before we ever went down there. Now that we know what we're doing, know who to talk to, what to do, what not to do, it's a lot easier to pull off. That doesn't mean that things don't go wrong. Oh yes, they do go wrong, but it's easier to pull off than it used to be.
I have a question. When you said it took a long time for you guys to finally go down there, what does that mean? Like, how long did it take you?
When did I say that?
Just a second ago, you were talking about like from the inception of the idea and kind of the background, and then actually kind of going down there. Like, what did that look like for you?
So that's really kind of interesting. Well, I think it's interesting, but um, we started talking it up. I had the idea, you know, I couldn't tell you the month, but I started attending some professional conferences where I had a lot of colleagues, and I would start talking it up and saying, "Hey, I got this idea. I think we can put together a surgical team to go down and help the poor in Peru, and I think it'd be a lot of fun." And and just something that isn't necessarily obvious about me, I get wild ideas, and sometimes they're not good ideas. For example, I thought our church should build a puddle duck racer sailboat. Yeah, and take the kids from church and race them down at Lake Grapevine. Well, a puddle duck racer is basically two sheets of plywood that you cut into a boat shape, and the sail you use a tarp on a shower curtain rod. It's it just says drowning victim all over it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not good, and I certainly didn't want what I thought was a good idea to be executed poorly some way, or turns out it's not such a good idea after all. I was really kind of doubting myself a little bit, and so yeah, after a while, it got to the point where we either need to do this or we need to shut up and move on to the next thing. And so we elected not to shut up about it, and we did it. But you know, a lot we learned a whole lot of lessons along the way, and a lot of leadership lessons. Frankly, it's been the finest leadership development course I've ever been a part of.
I will tell you, it's really inspiring, and
Oh, thanks.
it has my wheels turning a lot. Um,
Good.
I Yeah, it really does because I just spent like so my entire career is all about helping students and helping professionals gain clarity in their goals and their journey, and I have so many students that are trying to figure out kind of where to go, what to do. I am a huge advocate of both serving um, as well as internationally going abroad and doing having that experience, because a lot of times real life and real experience is definitely, well, most of the time it happens outside of the classroom.
It's in
And
the abstract until it's real.
exactly, exactly. And so my mind always, you talk about having wild ideas and all these things. I'm like you. You're like, when you said that, I was like, he is definitely a man after my own heart, because I have so many of them. And like my daughter laughs at me a lot because she's like, "Do you even sleep?" Because I'm constantly like, "What about this? What about that?" And you also sometimes have to realize, like with your ideas, it's kind of finding that, striking that balance of um, wanting to really bring them to life, and know and
Uh-huh.
having that discernment of being able to do that, and
Uh-huh.
also um, it's almost like when you said you felt like at some points kind of like discouraged about it. I think for me, I find that sometimes to be the case, because you have to figure out, like, you need a sounding board sometimes, right?
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
so when you're signing one off, and the people that are closest to you know that you have all of these ideas, when you get that one, like you did with this one, it's like, okay, is this just going to be another one of your big ideas, or like is this going to be something that you're going to execute? And then who can you bring together to like help breathe life into this? And so one of the things that you said several times, and I was listening to some of your podcasts, and even and we talked about it when you were talking about your book, is like, it's never a perfect time to get started, right?
Nope.
And so so that always goes through my mind, because I'm always like, like, just trying to think about it again, like when, how, who, but I always also think about like building it, and then they'll come, right? So
Yeah, it's very definitely a ready, fire, aim approach. You know, try something, and where are we short? How do we need to adjust what we're doing? That's definitely a part of it. The other part of it is a couple of things that I think are help pressure test ideas. One, when you invite other people on board, does it seem to excite their imagination as well? And then the second being, and even if that's not true, that first one, the second one really is, does it help a lot of people?
hmm that
And
part.
if those two things are true, then this is gonna be a success. But for me, you know, I was always. It's kind of funny. I'm not an organized person by nature, but I had somebody tell me that I'm the most organized person they've ever seen, because I've got this. Well, actually, I have it right here. As a matter of fact, I have this. Yeah. Well, I just really messed it up. But I got this orange binder that I basically organize everything that we do while we're down there, and it's not something I come by naturally, but it was so important to me to basically make sure I have friends, I have people donating money, I have professional colleagues, people that are clients. This couldn't be run poorly. We have to execute really, really well. And so, I kind of double dipped on the effort, pool to basically make sure that we didn't do anything, make that it did come off as good as it could come off. But well, put my files away.
Organization is really important. I mean, people have to know what they're doing, when to do it. They need to see a plan together. So, and I think it's like you said, not being organized by nature, but when it's something that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
and something that changes everything.
Well,
You will.
I think you said something really critical there. The people around you need to see that there's a
Mhm,
plan. It's like
mhm.
with any project, is there a return on investment? Do we have what's the risk to this plan? And do we have a change management plan? Is there a plan to make this successful? And if there's no plan to make it successful, it's not going to be.
Do you feel like your business background really helped you in this space? Because you mentioned change management. I'm like,
Yeah,
hmm.
I think so. I mean, obviously you use different vernacular, but change management's the big piece of it.
Hmm.
What's our change management plan for forcing all of our doctors to use a piece of software that they don't want to use? You better have a good one. You know, um, yeah, it definitely has helped. I think. I think you definitely learn to set expectations, but more importantly, look at what the downstream consequences are. What comes next? Why are we doing this? Should we do this? Um, yeah, I think it's. I think it's a two-way street. The lessons that we've learned running Texas Today Peru have made me a better business professional. Um, never mind what it's done for me as a person. I was a pretty horrifically awful human being before I started doing that.
Not Texas State Peru changed your whole life.
I really stunk, and now I don't.
Well, then it's a blessing.
Oh man, oh man. Well, I tell you, I think I think I had a couple conversations with a couple of your students from last year when I spoke
Yes.
to the group. I think I had some afterwards. Um, I don't think anybody signed. Wait, I think
You have one I know that signed up because she told me. I can't think of her name right now offhand, but yeah, she signed
yeah,
up. Yeah.
and yeah, and we had to refund her um, on that because we had a situation down in Peru that I can't discuss on camera, but everything's all fixed and everything's cool moving forward. So I've got two teams this year, leaving
Nice.
one leaving on the 10th and one leaving on the 17th. So
Do you know that she signed back up?
I don't think so yet. I what's her name, by the way?
That's what I
No,
said. I
no,
can't.
no, 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 no.
I can't.
Well,
But
handle
yeah,
that offline.
yeah, we'll talk offline.
Um, I don't think so. And I think I sent her a note to
Okay.
see, but uh, I've heard back from a couple of the other students that had signed up that are going to go, and then we've got another bunch of students that are interested in going. So I'd like to get the roster filled sooner rather than later. So
Yeah, I was gonna say. So you're opening up already because it's the summer. So and you run two or three summer sessions, right?
yep, yep,
Okay. So I can't. They have like I keep our um our workshop online as well. So that's in our presentation library, and then we share all that information through experiences. So your information is there too as well.
gotcha.
Of that. Yep.
So is there kind of like an approved list or something like that y'all maintain?
We honestly don't. What we do is we vetted, and it's kind of nice because what I really appreciate about I like to say my day job because I have so many other things going on. But one of the things I really like about what I do is it's public facing.
Yeah,
So although I work with UH Manoa, it's not we service students from everywhere, and they don't have to be UH Manoa students. And so that gives me a lot more opportunity to bring in new programs and to talk about them
right,
and to do that. I mean, my ultimate goal, period, is to connect the students with as many resources as possible. As we know, med school is becoming more and more competitive, not just med school, I mean, the health professional landscape is just becoming so much more competitive. And the holistic approach to admissions is equally as important now as the GPA and the entrance exams. And so our students are really trying to figure out two things. One, what type of when can they get the shadowing, when can they get that exposure,
hmm
when can they get those patient contact hours. But the other thing is what I always encourage them to do. And it's like striking that balance, which is we're not, yes, it's competitive. Yes, you got to have like the whole, you got to be the whole package. But how do you do this without being a box checker? And how do you do this
Yes.
and find authentic experiences that connect with your own beliefs, your own mission? And it doesn't have to look like a certain way. It needs to make sense. It needs to align with truly how you see yourself, and matching like your authentic personality and truly what you're passionate about. And so your program, for example, is definitely one that I do talk about when I'm advising, and especially because I have a lot of students that are interested in also surgery. Like that's not all the
Yeah.
students, but they are. So if you're interested in surgery, you do need to see. um, and actually, they actually need to see, all of them need to see a diversity of medicine being practiced. But if you really are looking at surgery, I think this is a great way, and it's also a great way to be able to see outside of the community that you live in,
Oh, yeah.
and outside of the US. I had one student that went to Africa recently, and the experiences that she shared, both some really, really great and some of them kind of hard, very hard.
Yeah.
But and she was like, her response to me was like, I really have to process all of what I just saw and everything that I did. And she was even taken back. I mean, infrastructure, not having all of the tools and resources that we are so used to here. And then even when she was, she's pre-med, but she joined a team of medical students, and she knew legally what she couldn't do as a pre-med student, but
Hmm.
because they were so under-resourced, they asked her to do a lot more things than she was like, "Oh my gosh," like, the things I had to kind of, like, push back because they were asking me to do so many things.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of it all, and it was a lot, she was one of the things that she was able to do was to help be instrumental in saving a baby's life.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. She talked about, being in a room with a teenage mom that was delivering. She didn't have money for the hospital, so they wouldn't give her any pain medicine.
Oh,
It
God.
was really hard. That was her first day, like her first day, full day there. After that, the baby was born, couldn't breathe. She said they put it on underneath a heating lamp. The physicians there were not resuscitating the baby. The team that she was working with made a decision to resuscitate the baby. They did that. And then after that, she talked about not being able to, the mom not being able to hold her baby, or have her baby because she couldn't pay the hospital. And so they took it upon themselves to pay that bill for that mom so that she could have her baby.
That's just awful.
Yeah, and so she was like, there were other experiences that she thought that were really positive, but that coming walking into that, not expecting that, having that your first day, and then seeing how other healthcare systems and countries move in a different way, that was eye opening
Yeah.
for her. But she said she'll never forget that experience. And so I think about those experiences and I said, the thing about experiences are you can have some really great ones, but you can also have some that stick with you forever. And it's what you do with those.
Oh, yeah. I imagine that will be sticking with her for a long time.
Yeah. But like, but what she was able to do, like I asked her, I was like, what are you thinking? And she's like, and I'm like, well, what if you weren't there? Would
Yeah.
that mom have been able to have her baby? Would she have been able to be reunited with her baby? Would our baby have even been alive? So just being instrumental, you don't know why you're put into a different, why you're placed into certain situations,
Yeah.
but it sounded like it was the right time for her to be there.
That sounds like a tremendous experience for her. I'm so glad that she was there.
Hmm.
That's so awesome. Um, you raised an interesting point, and if it's all right, I'd like to answer or tell you about it while I show this little video.
Sure.
And the reason I'm showing the video, not to brag about my book, get off the screen book, but I wanted you to see basically, you see how they're dressed.
Hmm.
it's pretty cold there, and they all wear layers and layers of clothes. And one of the things that we have the students do is basically do a rotation, basically in patient transport, either on the stretchers or moving them, walking down the hall and whatnot. When these women have surgery, they have probably never seen a doctor before, and they're wearing these sweaters because it's cold there, and they're wearing lots of layers. And we ask them to wear a hospital gown, which is awfully drafty and has a door where you don't want a door, and they're thin, and you stick an IV in them full of ice water, and that brings their body temperature down. So they're scared to death at times, and they're cold. And and I hate to say that we're kind of setting it up, but it's kind of a nice opportunity for the students to basically say, hey, this is a human being that's next to you that's cold and scared. Give her a blanket and take care of her. You can do it. And this is something you can do, is give a human being a blanket who needs one, and walk them down the hall. And then the other thing that's fun for them, well, I assume it's fun for them because it's fun for me when I get to do it, is did you do an epidural for your baby?
I did. Um,
So you
I
know
did.
how to,
I fought it though for a long time because I thought I wasn't gonna do it. I got the last call.
so we so we do a lot of spinals where they basically put the anesthesia in the spine, and you lean forward, and very often you'll hug somebody or hug a pillow while they do the epidural. And so, you know, we'll give the students a little cheat card. It'll say vas a sentir un poco líquido en tu espalda, which means you're going to feel a little bit of wet liquid on your back. There's un poco frío. It's going to be a little cold. You're going to feel un pico con un ape, which means you're going to feel like a bee sting on your back. You know, tranquilo, tranquilo, calm, calm, respira, respira, breathe, breathe. You know, you just do that little script card. But you know, it's a different thing to be able to basically, you know, help them through and empathize and see what they're going through, and
Absolutely.
make a little contact. And you know, the surgeries are fun, but I like the parts where they get to hug a patient or two.
The empathy. I mean, the real human connection. That's what we don't get in the books, and that's what's important. To be there and to actually be able to engage with those patients in a way that and this and correct me if I'm wrong, but these are pre-med students that are coming there, so this may be their first time actually being able to close a textbook and come out and actually work with real patients going through real things, and not only that, but patients that don't have any experience in this space. So that's where um
That's very true.
yeah.
Oh, and you know better than me, you know what it's taking to get students admitted to school now.
Everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, did you go to the moon? You know, you talk about your box checkers.
It's yes,
Um,
yes.
what
It's
it seems to me,
and I
though,
get it, and I honestly feel like so, and I have a love-hate relationship with the process
yeah,
because the love part of the process is that you do wanna make sure that you are bringing in really well-rounded physicians, and part of that is outside it's more than an GPA and an MCAT score, and they do have to have those true core competencies. They have to have that empathy. They have to have, that integrity. They have to have, the being able to build that trust and have be able to have that because again if you don't have that, I mean, most people, like you said, these the people that are coming in have probably never been to a doctor, but there are
yeah,
so many people within the community that are under, if not have never experienced healthcare, and so there's a lot of distrust, and we're in a
yeah,
world full of distrust. So being able to really have those things, I understand why it's not you can't just run to the races and go into med school. Like you probably should make sure. And then there's a commitment and a sacrifice. You're sacrificing a lot, right? They're sacrificing a lot as far as time. It's taking years to go through this, but it's really good to, and I always tell them this is a marathon, this is not a rush.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about it. You're going to spend more time actually practicing than all of us here. And to make sure that you have the right heart condition, the right posture, the right, you have everything. This is why this process is in place. And it wouldn't be in place if there wasn't signs before that there were areas that were lacking.
Yeah.
And we need to do that. So, um, that part. I think the harder part though is that once they come out and they've been really prepped for all of this, and then also like seeing a system that is different, that's rushing them. And I see that in other health professionals too, like other types of health careers where the complaint is like I have students saying I'm switching majors because I can't have a relationship with my patient that I thought I would have because the insurance provider makes me have to switch them out every time I get a different patient. And so for me, that's not attractive for me. And so I'm seeing this, and I know I don't want to go this route. So it's a balance, but yeah, it's the love part of it is hopefully it's really developing compassionate physicians that truly are passionate about what they do in care, and also are seeing a world that's different from themselves. So I
Yeah.
do appreciate that part of the process. The hate part is that yeah, it's a real process, and I'm like I know I have some great people in front of me, and to tell them okay, not yet, a year, 2 years from now, and hope that they don't lose that passion to get to the next level. That's the part that I'm always like, man, we have some really good people in front of us, but sometimes it's the timing and the time that it takes to get there, they just don't have the luxury of, and that part.
Yeah. We've only had one kid go through a program that didn't come out of it excited and still wanting to be a doctor.
Really?
My son.
Your son went there. Okay.
Well, I mean, he didn't really want to be a doctor, but he sounded like a cool thing to do, and he was a little young. But so it's time for you to see a surgery. Would you like to see a surgery? And nope, I'm good. Well, we found out that wasn't for him, and that saved us a ton of money. But
I was gonna say that's okay. I tried to expose my daughter into the medical field very early. In fact, I don't know if I should share this, but I did fudge a little bit on her age to get her in. She was, I want to say, like they had a dissection class at a community college,
uh-huh.
and she was really interested in that, and I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And I think she was, like, 7, and I think they were supposed to be, like,
Wow.
10 or something like that, but I was like, "Oh, yeah, she could do it." And so she goes into the dissection class, loved it, like, was able to dissect a shark and a pig and identify the sex of the pig, loved it. The funniest thing, though, she decides to walk out. I see her walking and I'm looking through the glass window like this, and I'm like, what is she doing? And she's going, and I'm like, she has things on her hands. I'm like, no, what are you, I'm not gonna want to like go back. And then she goes, I'm hungry. And so she was gonna go get her snack. And other kids I'm looking and they're like squeamish, right? And they're like, oh, and I said, no, 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 you can't eat lunch, you can't eat your snack yet. Like finish waiting. She's like, well, I finished my dissection. I go, okay, just wait. And so I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to be a doctor. Like, I just know my baby's going to do this. She's in STEM. So, I mean, she's, into the computer world, but I think it is good though to expose them. And to me, it's equally as powerful to have them say, no, it's not what I want to do as it is to say yes, because exposing them, at least the world, it's always like, I think of the Tootsie Roll commercial, the world will never know. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you don't know until they're there. So he like the experience, or was he just like, oh, my dad just drugged me here?
Oh, he liked all of it by and large, but the doctoring part of it, the being a physician, I think he realized pretty quickly it wasn't for him. But he was awfully good as a volunteer. He was attentive, and he helped folks, and he was a good orderly, and he showed compassion to the patients. But you know, he just didn't get excited about the being a doctor part of it. And it's funny to watch the students that go through the thing. What excites them when they're down there, and a lot of them are real excited to, I mean, ton of them are excited to observe the surgeries. That's what they're waiting for. But it's a pleasant surprise when they basically, you know, it happens, the patients always call us doctor, even if
Oh,
we're not.
yeah, you're in the scrubs.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're in scrubs and
I have
you're
a hard time noticing who's what in our hospitals in the US with all the scrubs, like who's who.
exactly. So a long time ago, I quit trying to correct people and say, no, I'm not a doctor. I'm the guy who helps the doctors.
You just became the honorary doctor?
Yeah. So I just take the honorarium, but the students get called doctor as well. And the patients will very often approach them when they're discharging and hug those students and tell them gracias and goodbye. And
Aw.
man, that's fun to watch.
Hopefully that pumps them up to like continue back when they get back into the classrooms and they have to take biochem and all the rest of the classes, that they are just
That's
full of that
that's
experience.
just
Because
the cost of getting back to
yeah,
gracias a todos.
absolutely. And I think that's great to have. That's why I was really kind of digging deep into the workshop series over the summer, because I have so much that I can only do in the fall and spring, but in the summertime, really just looking at opportunities and saying, hey, get out of the classroom, get that experience,
Yeah.
because it also reinforces your why or why not. But it's, again, you won't know unless you're out. I just had recently someone tell me, we worked so hard for med school. He got accepted and rescinded the offer and said he wanted to be a physician's assistant. And I was like, "What?" Like, no one does that. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Why?" And he became a surgical technician, and he said, I got to really look at the positioning. And I love emergency medicine. I wanted to do that. He said, but it was the patient part too. Like, he watched the engagement as what the surgeon did versus what the physician's assistant did,
Uh-huh.
and like he realized he was more boots on the ground and wanted to have more patient engagement. And then he also said, these were life and death situations. I didn't know if I really wanted that to rest on my shoulders like that, and really what that meant. And so then my first thought was like, okay, well, don't go to emergency medicine. You're accepted in med school. Go to family physician. Do something else. And he said, yeah, I thought about that too, but I love it, and I just don't necessarily want I don't want the full autonomy that the physician has, but I just want to work in it in a different aspect. And then he said the third thing that just was like, okay, he sealed the deal. He's like, I'm 19, I'm going to be 20. And he said, I don't know what my life looks like in 10 years. He goes, I may not want to do emergency medicine. As a physician's assistant, I have the flexibility to switch and change my specialization. If I went this way, I could not do that. So if I want to have a family and I decide I don't want to be on call or like running through emergency all the time, I can switch that. Um,
Yeah.
so I have an opportunity to explore more in this path. And what took a lot, I told him, I said, you're really brave, because a lot of people would not, they strive so much to get into medicine. His family was expecting a doctor. He's saying physician's assistant. Not that it's, but he also couldn't start. Like, just because he got accepted into med school, he
Uh-huh.
couldn't transition. He had to get more patient contact hours. They need more hours with the patient contact, because they have more contact with
Yeah.
patients. And so he had to take a gap year, another gap year, to actually go into training for a PA. So not only did you make a decision where you were already in, then you have to wait another year to actually transition, and you have to deal with, like, I guess, the title change of people like saying, oh wow, why. But when he explained it, I really was like, I wish that other people would start thinking on the lines of truly where they see themselves in helping people. Once you
Yeah.
understand that part, everything else will align. And so, I mean, you did, right? With Texas Day Peru, how do you want to help people? You said it earlier. What's my why? Like, why do I want
Yeah.
to, why is it important? Why? And I ask myself that every day, not just like when I grow up, like, okay, what's next? Like, how, why, connecting, like all of that.
I tell you that kid's admirable. You're right. It takes a lot of courage to
Super
make a
brave.
decision that, frankly, most of the world won't. They won't make that decision.
But that was not, but because he's making that decision and he's on that, I think he will be more fulfilled in his life.
I think so too. He's very self-aware, and you know, it's
And he stopped himself from making another lifelong commitment in a place that he didn't feel like it was truly going to really fit and suit who he is as a person and what he wants and how he wants to help people. Yeah, I
yeah.
tell
I
now
mean,
because
the
of that, I
divorce
tell
rate in our, the divorce rate in our country would be a little less if we enabled our kids to have courage and say it's okay. We'll lose the deposit, but it's okay to not make a wrong decision.
and the sacrificing, right? Like the fact that he took a gap year just to do med school, and now he has to take another gap year to do that to get more hours. Because like another thing that students don't think of, they're like, oh yeah, I could just transition. I had so many students like, oh, I'm going to transition to here, transition there. Well, when you transition, that means more time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a lot. You have to have a lot of courage to be able to do that. But I think that's life, though. You learn this early on. Have you transitioned? I know, like transitioning in careers, like you were business and now you're doing also business and this, like it's stackables, but then the pathways of life is going to shift you anyway. So it's kind of cool to learn that earlier, I think.
Boy, I tell you that you said a mouthful. I'm kind of in that boat. I'm in many ways trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
You
Um,
too. Me
uh,
too.
you
Me
know,
too. Me
it,
too. I'm definitely looking at that.
you know, I tell you, it's hard to. I get so much charge from Texas de Peru. You know, even when it's
I
going
I'm
when things are
inspired.
going bad, or you know, it's occasionally it's kind of nice to if you're feeling sorry or sad for yourself, or you're down or blue to to look in your drawer where you've stuffed some of the trophies and accolades and pull some of them out occasionally. And the ones that mean something to me are the ones that have to do with Texas de Peru. I could care less about winning second prize in football, but that this patient hugged me that day. This is a picture of a kid who couldn't walk properly and was able to get him help. This is a picture of this kid whose arm didn't work, and I helped the doctors put a team together that helped him be
The
able to use
life,
his arm again.
being able to change lives. It sounds like people always say, "Oh, I just want to change lives," and I hate that it's become so cliche and insane because it's truly something to see, um, and to follow and see the lives of the people that you were able to be impactful with, whether direct or being collaborating and being part of that. Like to me, it's just there's something like, and I think for me, that's that. If I can't do that or I can't say that part, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be part of it.
You
I
know,
just
it's kind of a weird phenomenon. Very often when I'm talking about Texas de Peru, I'm not talking about the patients. And at the end of the exercise, it's the patients and the families. It's that late person on that table that we're really end up doing this for. And sometimes I feel kind of bad because I keep talking about how much fun we're all having.
it's okay to have fun.
And
It's great to have fun.
you're exactly right. And if you're helping people and having fun, a lot of fun doing it,
In the right
that's a
place.
real good sign you're in the right plot. You're in the right spot.
Yep.
So try to lean into that even more and more. But
I 100% agree. If you don't have a joyful heart doing it, then don't do it. Um,
exactly. And I know that this sort of thing isn't for everybody. That's perfectly fine. But I encourage people to give it a try and find out. It's because you may be surprised. But hey, I've got a shifting gears on you. I got a question for you, and
hmm,
it's kind of a dangerous question because it's an opportunity for me to pull my soapbox out. Earlier, you mentioned that it's getting more and more competitive to get into health careers or med school. Yet, and the numbers for med school, it's like 86,000 applicants and 21,000 slots.
mhm.
Um, and the numbers like that, 48,000 or 48% of those slots go to people in the upper 20% of household incomes, and only 4% go to the lower 20%. I think there's something wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I'll
I
put my
agree.
soapbox back for a second.
Yeah.
Um, it just doesn't seem quite right that we have a shortage of doctors. We have a shortage of nurses. That number is not going up. It's going down. I mean, massive numbers of people are retiring. Our population is growing, yet it's more and more competitive to get into these roles.
Absolutely.
That all doesn't add up.
That's why I said the love and hate for me with that. Because it doesn't, I feel like it's very hard for me to talk to students and they ask me, they're applying 2, 3 times, and they're asking me what else can I do?
Yeah.
What can make my application more competitive? And I can look at the application and there's nothing that I see that would not make them competitive. And it's really about every year, it's about the pool of students that come in. We can strategize on timing, on when you, if it's rolling admissions, when to time it. We can strategize on, I mean, they have so much experience, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And a lot of volunteering that they do. They have so much. And here's the thing, you made a point about um, people that may come from the lower having lower income to be able to do this, because it takes, if you have to work and you can't volunteer,
Yeah.
you're almost out, in a lot of institutions, or you can't, in some areas. Before I came over to work with more of the med on other pre-health, I used to work for the nursing school. And so one of the things that the program was an accelerated program, and we had to tell them, if you come to this program, don't work, you can't work, no working for a year, you cannot work. And so again, that's weeding out certain people. Some people have to work. And then some would say, okay, and try, and then they would absolutely do horrible. And so they had to, you had to have the luxury of being able not to work and not have anything else on your plate. And that's not the case for a lot of people. And yet we do have gaps in healthcare here in Hawaii, where I'm at. Like, we are so short. We have such a shortage. And the reason why the nurse practitioning program came about was because we were trying to fill a gap of not having as many
Yeah.
positions. We needed to raise up nurse practitioners to kind of step in between that. And yet it still hasn't changed the competitive landscape. We still have to do this. And it's also, the bottleneck also comes into the infrastructure of the hospitals. The hospitals, do they have enough to have shadowing? So I have students right now looking at, the reason why this is so important is because they need shadowing experience. And guess what med school says? We don't want just 100 hours. We want more than 100 hours. We want to see now maybe like 300 hours. And also, we don't want just one specialization. We want to see you shadow multiple specializations. So now these students are like, how do I get shadowing hours? They call the physicians here, no one returns their call, no one's responding to their emails. They have a hard time getting those experiences. Um, and it's not, the physicians, they're overwhelmed and have so many patients on them. So they may not be able to have someone constantly like kind of in the room and showing what they do. So it's just a real hard problem. We are dealing with this because it is
Yeah.
bottleneck. And it's like, what do? You can't, we don't have enough physicians already to be able to open up the opportunities for internships or those things. um, and so students are having to seek other areas of opportunity, and a lot of them is international. That is the
Yeah.
game. They have to do international experience. But being a person that studied abroad, I studied abroad, and I am a huge advocate of being able to study abroad or to get internships or get shadowing, whatever that is. There's so much that you gain from that it's huge. I have students that are taking some of their prerequisites for that. I tell them, go take it abroad. See how they teach. Do that and then bring it back. Our students now have been taking some of their core biochemistry and organic chemistry over in Ireland, and they're like, and they were like, I started seeing all these grades come up. I'm like, what's going on over there? And they're like, "Yeah, we just like the way they teach," and so they're expanding. But it just, to me, it's almost, they have to think outside the box in order to be able to matriculate in. If they're trying to do a cookie cutter and wait for the opportunities locally, sometimes they just don't present themselves. They don't have enough. And then think about this: they're competing with other students that have international experience. So now we have two applications. Somebody
Uh-huh.
did 300 hours of shadowing. They did the box. They did everything that was asked of them. But this person went and actually got to have an international experience. And now they're able, and on top of that, and now these two applications are sitting there. You know, your why, your story, your essay that you have to write has to tell a story.
Hmm.
It's a lot. It's kind of cool to be able to tell a story like something that happened in Texas Day Peru that you experienced, to be able to stitch that in. So it's like always telling them, like always like guiding them and advising, like you have to think beyond just also what's expected. You have to think further down the line of, yes, it's a shadow, but then what does that mean? Does that create does that solidify your why? What did you see? What did you journal when you were there? Is this something that you can talk about? Is this something you can interview about? Is this something that you can share with a lot of these other institutions? So yeah, it's really important. And to be quite honest with you, I just feel like it's not enough either. It's not a We don't have enough medical missionaries.
That's a special topic to me. I couldn't agree more with you.
I think there's a lot more, and to be honest with you, I also my mind goes. I don't know if I told you. So, I've been in higher ed for the last 15 years, and one
Uh-huh.
of the things, and I've always had one foot in two different areas. It's always been healthcare and tech, always. And so,
Me
and I
too.
still both, and I healthcare and tech, and I'm always thinking about like how do we connect people with more resources? How do we connect people with each other?
Uh-huh.
How how can how can we actually take have something have a opportunity that actually, we talk about box checking, but actually checks multiple boxes that people can gain all this experience with different sides and actually uplift the community. How do you do that? And so that's where my passion project is right now. If you want to know, that's where my mind, that's what keeps me up at night. It's like
Uh-huh.
is like trying to do that, because you know how you said you go back to when you want to feel better what you do. You
Yeah.
know where where my drawer is? It's LinkedIn. I get to look at all my students' professional careers grow, and like I follow back all the ones that I worked with that were in tech and starting their own companies, and um, all over, like programmers now have just moved up. And I look at that and I'm just like, wow, like this one just started their own data science firm. Like, how cool is that? And then I go through and then I look at all the health professionals and like where they're at. Oh my goodness, like they're already, almost become, they're talking to our students now because they're now in, their third year or whatever in med school. So it's just, I don't know, like for me, just to go back and see and
Uh-huh.
know people that you got to talk to, even when they were like, I don't. I worked before where we exclusively worked with under resourced students, and from the schools that told me you made a wrong turn. Why are you here? They told me that. Why are you here? A principal telling me I made a wrong turn, and I said, because I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And then they send me to the wrong room with the students that have been kicked out of every public school, but except this,
Yeah.
like, this is where I'm at. And I said to myself, and I prayed, I said, if I could just touch any, because I had a huge scholarship that would have been 100% paid for any student that was willing to kind of go through this program and into a program that was not known into the community either. And so I remember thinking like, okay, let me just see what happens here. And it was wild. But one thing about it, there was three students that took advantage of it, and I still watch their career growth to this day. Like for me, just to see someone that the ultimate goal was like this one of the students was like, I don't know anything about, like, this was tech. I don't know anything about computers. I
That
don't know.
that's such a cool place to be in, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but went to my wife's family reunion, or excuse me, their town reunion, and they have all the high school classes there, and her mother was a teacher there forever and ever and ever. And the line formed all the way down the wall. Just people wanting to give her a hug and saying hi and remember
Um,
me. And I don't have very many clients that do that to me.
it's just knowing that you were able to expose or show someone a
Yeah.
different path, and then also to see what to me is most rewarding is to see that circle back and that person has shown that path to other people, and the next thing you know, you see upward mobility in even communities that the seed sometimes the seed just has to be planted,
Yeah,
and then the
they need to know it's possible.
they need to know it's possible. They don't do it because they don't know about it.
Exactly. Exactly. I was fortunate enough to have a similar experience when I was a kid. I got to see things that I'd never seen before. It's part. Guess what? That's what college is about. And and I was really fortunate from that standpoint. And I hope that we're providing that for the students that come through our program as well. You know, seeing the world through a different set of lenses
Yes,
is something else, and seeing a different part of the world it's just different.
drastically
And
different.
to run into people who are just about dirt poor and they're happy as clams. Why is that? And the challenges that they have that they're just immensely grateful for an improvement in their situation. And it breaks your heart when you when there are times you can't do anything about it. You mentioned something a second ago that I want to latch onto a little bit. I've kind of lightly touched on having our students keep a journal of what they do every day.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think I'd like to more formalize that process to basically say, be sure to capture these elements of what you're doing today. And I'm hoping that maybe you might be able to provide an insight on what they ought to be capturing, particularly as they cultivate or harvest that experience to try to get into med school.
Yeah, I actually usually give them a template because I don't I tell them that, and then I'm like, "Okay, are they gonna really do it?" And so, like, I send a template where they can actually journal things, but also think about so the way the template is set up is it's honestly set up like the application itself.
Uh-huh.
So it's who you've worked with, um, the different diversity of experiences that you've seen because sometimes you can go from one place but you may do other things and so students don't recognize. I may have walked in and I was shadowing, but then all of a sudden there was an opportunity to where where I was able to like get a chart or do some charting. Well, now, or I was able to take a bite or talk to a patient. Well, when you start talking and engaging with patients, now that's now we're patient engagement. So
Mhm.
again, you went in with one thing, but then you're doing other things. If you're not documenting that, when you get to the experiences side of actually talking about what you've done, you've lost that opportunity.
Yeah.
So if you keep a journal and you talk about what you've done every day, then later on, and even if it's just honestly a regular notebook, that's fine. And I tell them you don't need my use. You can even use this as something later. But if you keep a journal and you write down what you did the whole day, you might find out that what you did might fall into other categories and where you can position that.
And it's a simple memory exercise as well. If you don't write it down, there's a good chance
Oh,
you're going
you
to forget.
will not remember it. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, so I know. I don't even know what I ate. So I know, and I tell them that all the time, you will forget it. You will. And next tomorrow, maybe something even like may overshadow what happened yesterday. And it doesn't mean that yesterday wasn't important. So you really want to make sure that you're documenting everything, and that way you can and it can jog your memory and also like when you're writing your personal essay, which a lot hangs in the balance of that, and
Yeah.
depending on professional schools, some professional schools, that's all they have. They don't interview. All they do, they say you have 500 words. That's all you have, and we make a decision. Your grades 500 words. That's all you have. And so really thinking about having those rich experiences to draw from on those essays to make sure That's what you do. And you don't go all the way to Peru, right, to not document the
Yeah.
experience. You don't. I mean, all the way down to what things look like, what it smelled like, what you see, the color, like you mentioned, a layer of clothing. There's so much. And I'm sorry, but the essay has to be vivid enough and engaging enough to where I want to read the rest of it. Because if I don't get it in the first, like, there's a lot of things coming through. So that journal is absolutely crucial to everything that they do in the process. So yes, you want to make sure. Like, I would actually say things to bring. If you have a list of things they need to bring,
Uh-huh.
that should be part of that list.
Absolutely.
Bring your diary, bring your journal. You have to have it.
That, thank you for sharing that. That is really, really insightful and terribly helpful for us. Um, it's kind of like, we have the surgical rotation, we have the office visit rotation, we have the sterilization rotation, we have the orderly rotation. But to your
Nice.
point, a lot of the great experiences happen in the mortar between those. It's not during surgical rotation while you're all gloved and gowned. It was that experience that you had in the lobby with a patient and their child,
Yep.
or you were sitting on the street talking to the children, you know, whose moms are in there getting a surgery or something like that. Or any number of things that I couldn't tell you about. Or like in my stupid example, when I the security guards at the airport said, "Señor tiene un canon," which
Oh, yes.
you know what that means, right?
I do.
Um,
And you were just lucky that the times were different and you didn't have this.
well,
I watched the show. My One of my other favorite shows is I locked up abroad. So
I've been in that room. I have been up in that. Well, there's one on the Discovery Channel that's Peru specific in the Lima airport. I've been in that room.
That's a
I,
scary
I
place
was
to
a
be.
customer.
Oh goodness. Making sure they don't end up in that room is also really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been great. I think we need to do another episode. I'm going to end up having this into multiple parts, but let me ask you a final question, if I could. If there's an action you could tell your students to do starting tomorrow or today that would improve their outlook professionally or even personally, what might that be?
That's a good question. I One of the actions that I'm always talking to them about, because it's something that I feel like, is to get out and connect. Like, you have to really. I think that a lot of times, and what I'm seeing, especially even with this, and I'm going to date myself with age and all that stuff, but I'm just saying, I notice within the younger generations right now is that there's a lack um, of connecting and collaborating,
Amen to that.
and so all the way down to, like, I work a lot with a lot of the students that are already in, like, they're in school, they're peer advisors, and I can literally sit there and look, and they're studying for the same exam and they're opposite sides. So one thing that I did, that I'm working with it now, is I have a mentor and mentee program for pre-health students, because I felt that they're not connecting.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to go about this all by yourself. This is such a long journey. And the more people that you have, the more information you can get, the more resources that you can have. It makes the journey, one, to me, more enjoyable, but also just it keeps you from having to learn, as we just talked about, through the bad experiences, if you can cut around that because you have somebody else that's a little bit ahead of you in the journey. And it also allows you, if you're ahead in the journey, to pay it forward and be able
Yes.
to get back. And so I feel that that's my number one. If I was like, find your tribe, start collaborating. This does not have to be. I know everything is um, um, really competitive, but you don't, because the process is competitive doesn't mean that you have to be cutthroat and competitive.
Yeah.
Um, I think really just making sure that you really maximize all of your resources and build those authentic relationships, because that's what's going to carry you all the way through. So I don't know. I hope I answered that question. What you were
No,
saying.
I think you're making two or three excellent points there. You know, this is not connection. And and to be fair, it's hard to practice medicine unless you're a pathologist or radiologist with that. It's got to be human to human connection.
And you still have to, like, you still have to have human to human connection, and people want to know, like, these like, you can get a lot of information. I love technology. If it wasn't for this, we wouldn't be able to do this, right?
Of
And
course.
we're still able to do some connecting, but there's nothing. I'm even at this point now where I'm like, okay, you want to leverage the technology, then what I want to do is I want to see how often are you using this to connect? Because that's the other part about it.
Yeah.
So if you're not like there to me, yeah, you're right. There's nothing that takes the place of actual physical connection, but also the frequency of the connection matters. So if
Right.
you're going to use this as a tool to to be able to connect with more people, that's great. But also realize that you're going to also have to do it more frequently. So to answer, so when you said, "Oh, we can do this more often," I'm like, I totally welcome that because the more we can reach and the more people that we can that people know about programs like this, that's really important. And so yeah, frequency is huge. Being intentional about it is huge. My thing is just do it. Like you said, there's never a bad time. Like do it now. Start now,
Well, I
early.
tell you, that's kind of the mantra of a lot of what we talk about is, don't wait for perfect, do it now. And it's kind of funny. I've got a good friend of mine. I love him to death, but I've watched him for the last 13 years really grind his guts talking himself out of joining us down in Peru. I'm like, dude, you just got to go.
Is he a physician?
No, he's not. But and it's part of that also. How can I contribute? I was like, look, a non-clinical person can really contribute there because you're there to basically make it possible for the clinical people to do their jobs. So I don't want any of the nurses waiting on anything. If they're thirsty, I want them to have a Coke or a glass of water. If they need coca candy to give them a little pick me up, well, that sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Coca
But
candy. I'm like, do I need some of that? I just got some from Brazil recently.
did
Coffee.
you?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have that. But
I have coffee candy
oh,
from
well,
the Coca coffee candy. Yes, it's so good too.
we have the Coca candy down there, which it's funny because everybody's nana is drinking Coca tea down there, and it's it is the precursor to cocaine after all. But
Oh, we love I love the coffee. So,
oh yeah, and in fact the cooks that cook for us at the clinic, they grow and roast their own coffee.
oh,
It's so
nice.
good.
Oh,
It's
yeah, I've
so
enjoyed
good.
you guys in Peru. You're like that's awesome. So do you
But
go every time? Do you go down there and do you stay for the whole time or what
I
is your
try to. I want to be in a position where, um, eventually, this is what I want to do full time. Um, but
I
someday,
understand that. I get that.
someday. So let me wrap us up by doing the obligatory commercial for just a second, and
Sure.
first by saying thank you
No,
for
thank
for
you.
being on this. Don't hang up when we say our goodbyes, but
Oh, of
um,
course.
but if anybody's interested in what we're doing with Texas Day Peru, either as a volunteer or pre-med or pre-health job shadowing, love to have you be a part of it. The requisites we're looking for is people who are interested, qualified, and with a real heart for helping folks. That's really what we're looking for. And it's I'm looking for my cute little thing. There it is. There. Wow, isn't technology cool? So that's a QR code for our website down there. And like I said, we need surgical volunteers, surgical techs. We need those. Those are those people are like gold. Them and CRNAs, they're just absolutely wonderful to have on our teams. But thank you so much for doing this again. I really appreciate you being on with me.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed being here as well.
And I really hope that people watch this because you really shared a lot that I think can help folks out a lot.
No, thank you. I hope so. I mean, like again, my just Connection, connecting
All right.
everyone. That's the one. That's if you ask me like the big the my mantra, that's what it is.
There you go. Well, thank you again. We'll see you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye.